that the only thing we have to fear is fear itself.
Hello, everyone. Super Addy B here. Or you can just call me Adam. Um, yeah, I'm just trying something new here for me. I don't know if you want to call it a podcast or me just talking to myself. After all, that's what those things kind of are. Um, uh, I've always been someone that likes to talk to themselves a lot. I'm kind of crazy. Um, but you know, so I thought I would just record myself. Really, I like to think lots of different things and about different things, and because I have lots of deep thoughts. That's what we're calling this thing, deep thoughts. Um, uh, I mean, not really. I mean, really, I like to ramble. I like to think about things. I'll try to keep things as concise and on topic as possible. I'm gonna try to have a topic for you know, every episode. We'll see how this goes. This is a test run. It's gonna be bad. It's gonna be terrible. That's okay. Um, I wish I would have angled this better to where you can't see my monitor, but we'll just leave it for now. We'll leave it for now. So what's going on? Yeah, this is just a little podcast thing. I'm gonna be talking to myself. Got some good old coffee here, stimulate the mind a little bit. I got my 1.5-year-old out there, so she's really into things like Sesame Street and Bruno Mars right now. So hopefully, we don't pick up any of that in the background. Um, Hopefully, no Doja Cat. She really likes Doja Cat, but we're trying to have a real family discussion about if we should be canceling her or not. It's a real serious topic after her recent activities. Um, yeah, that could be a whole topic, right? Cancel culture would be a good topic. But today I kind of wanted to talk about something that's, I don't know, been on my mind a lot lately. And it's only more prevalent. It's only been more prevalent these last few months as we've been in a pandemic. Did we forget already? Um, no, of course not. They'll never let us forget. But so that kind of had me, this whole thing, the virus thing, whatever. I don't, we'll talk about it obviously a little bit because that's to do with the topic, but had me thinking a lot about just fear, fear, and what it can do to us and make us do as human beings, as society. Um, my own experiences with it. So I think that'd be a good topic of conversation. Yeah, that's probably going to be really annoying drinking coffee, but it's a test. Um, so yeah, today I want to talk about fear and how it's really how I don't know how it really affects us. I guess So when this whole coronavirus thing started, um, I remember seeing like just a few headlines about it. I remember one day, and I was like, coronavirus. It was like even like on like you bring up like MSN, and it's got all the top topics and stuff like that, and all the headlines and all that, pictures and stuff, in case you don't know how to read. And but I remember like just one day off to the side, like there was this thing like, oh, coronavirus or some virus in China or something like that, and you wouldn't even have paid. I barely paid attention to it, because it was put off to the side, and then um, it as the days went on and kind of a couple weeks went on, and then all of a sudden I pull up MSN and it's like the biggest thing, and it's here and it's there and it's this website talking about it and this website talking about it, and all of a sudden I was like, whoa, I didn't. I remember reading, like, seeing something about some virus, but I didn't think it was going to be this big. Okay, this is weird. Um, and then, of course, the news starts talking about it a lot more, and like this virus, like it's spreading, and and then you got, the president, coming up and talking about it, and our government and stuff like that, and first things that are said about it kind of is like, oh, it's just a flu, it's just a normal flu, and there's nothing to be afraid of, um, just a flu, and so there was this, like, okay, well, if it's just a flu, then why is the news like freaking out about it a lot? Like, why do they keep talking about it? And and a lot of people, I don't think were too worried at first, because we've all mostly had the flu. The flu's been around forever. You get the flu, it sucks. You got it. You know what to do to get through it. You get your little chicken noodle soup and your crackers and and your Theraflu. Um, and then you're better in like a week or something like that, right? Um, oh, here's this little gremlin to mess everything up. Um, so it was just interesting to see how it kind of first started, and then you just had the news again, just every day in the media with just these like scary headlines and statistics like, oh man, it's killed this many people in China, it's killed this many people, oh, we have this many cases now in Italy, oh, now there's this many cases in America, and it's going up and going up, and and I held on to the belief for a while, and still do, and we'll get into that, that there wasn't anything to be afraid of. I was, if I, even if it, if it really was like the flu and I got it, I'll get over it. I've had the flu, a few times, not a lot. I don't get the flu a lot, not even every year, but I do get vaccinated for it just about every year. Seems to be a hit and miss. A lot of people say they get vaccinated and they get the flu like right away. I usually don't get the flu when I get vaccinated. I'm sure there's times where I have gotten the flu after a vaccination, just not really made the connection or anything. But I wasn't scared of this. But what I saw with people is, first when it started out, I didn't know really anybody that was afraid of this thing. Um, I loved talking to people about it. Um, especially where I work at, and work at a convenience store, and I see a lot of people coming in, and just hearing all their different opinions about it. The majority of people that I talk to were not afraid. They're like, "This is why the news blowing this thing up. It's way out of proportion. It doesn't make sense. The numbers aren't there. What's there to be afraid of?" Well, then March starts rolling around, and I think that's when they declared it a national pandemic. And that really was that was strange for a lot of people, and myself included. Maybe a little surreal. I mean, I feel like we're just so desensitized as a culture. I mean, how many movies and video games and shows have we, engaged ourselves in, and that had to do with a crazy pandemic or a crazy virus that was killing people. I mean, the story's been told several times. And there have been real pandemics, and there have been outbreaks of viruses and flus and stuff that kill massive amounts of people. So it's obviously, a very real thing, but just in this day and age where people, like I said, man, people just, they're just so into, their phones and their social medias and whatever people do these days, take selfies and make memes, whatever. That I don't think it, probably didn't. It was very strange for everybody. Like, a pandemic. This is a pandemic, okay. So then I saw a split. There was a split of people that were like kind of in the beginning. They were like the people in the beginning that were like, "This is nothing. I'm not afraid." You saw those people kind of split off and continued to be like, "This is still nothing. A pandemic. This doesn't need to be a pandemic." At this point, it killed like how many people? Like 2,000? Not even that. Like 1,000 people or something like that in the world. I'd have to maybe check that. But then you had another split of people that took it really serious, and I saw people really getting scared. They're like, "Oh my gosh, this is like, whoa, we're in a pandemic. There's a virus that's spreading. Like, what?" And so, and yeah, so started seeing like just people becoming more and more afraid and stuff. And when this fear arose, it'd be really nice if my computer worked. Like, actually worked. I just wanna look up some stuff about it. It's because it's crazy. I mean, it's been a few months now, and just these last few months have been have obviously been crazy for everyone. It's just kind of interesting to like think about where we are now and where things are at now, and things are still, they're barely settling. But again, people are so split right now on how to be and how to feel. But and so when this fear arose, I started just to see just an enormous amount of what I call fear porn everywhere. I couldn't. It was disgusting what the news and media outlets were doing, and on social media and everything. Because even though you had like the CDC and such being like, this, they were all saying, and the World Health Organization, that this could be worse than the flu. It could be worse than the flu. It was always could be. It was never a it will be or for sure will be. It was always this what if could be situation. It could kill millions of people by April. It could kill millions and millions more by May. This thing could go on forever. Is what it kind of, it really, it was really gross to see, because because even if it was a what if, they were acting like it was a for sure. Like, this is it, people. This is the pandemic we've all been waiting for. This is, we were not prepared, and we need to do all these things right now. Testing, and send ventilators and do this and do that, and it just spun into chaos to where people were just standing around spinning in circles, not knowing what to do, just out of fear, because because nobody understood how to be, because we haven't lived through this before. And so people, became more and more afraid, and acted like they needed somebody to tell them what to do or how to be. So here comes the government. Governors and everyone, really just governors and some few select people in Congress, talking about quarantining and, shutting down. That was a big thing that was first being talked about a lot during this. That the country is going to shut down. Like, what? What does that even mean? How do you shut a country down? And a lot of people didn't think past that. I was very frustrated with all this fear at first and hearing all these things, because I don't trust a lot of the mainstream media per se. I trust some of the things they say, and I was really trying to listen to the things they were saying about this, but it was hard to hear certain things over all the fear porn. It was hard to hear, like, oh, wait a minute, okay, well, I'm supposed to wash my hands, and what now? Do I wear a mask? Do I wear a mask? Troops are marching the streets. I see helicopters and tanks. They're on the roads. We're gonna die. That's all that it was, throughout, like, March, pretty much. Pictures circulating all over the internet of tanks and jeeps, and everyone was thinking, like, oh my gosh, we're headed to martial law. People were afraid that this is, what was happening. And a lot of people thought that was the point of this virus, too, was to scare people into martial law and shutting themselves in. Again, let's see. Hold on. COVID cases, March. Like, is that when it skyrocketed? I'm not going to be able to find this timeline. And it just went straight to that, and it frustrated me so bad. I was like, you guys, wait, hold on, everybody. We don't even know if this is the case. Just because pictures are circulating, like, what if these troops and stuff, what if this is the National Guard? What if they're going to deliver ventilators and medical supplies? Like, y'all are acting like these people are about to start knocking on your door and taking your children. And I understand that. Those things are real possibilities. Your government shutting you in your homes for certain periods of time, that that's a real thing that could happen, and a lot of things that would usually go along with that, in my opinion, from everything I've learned about it, martial law, and just even looking back at Nazi Germany and how they did it and stuff. That's how they start. They will tell you you can't come out of your houses now. Oh, you have a curfew now. Oh, you can't have guns now. Oh, you can't have your business open now. It happened to the Jews, brother man. I don't know about the guns thing. I don't know if did Nazis take away guns? They did, didn't they? Right? Did they disarm people? I can't remember. So much to look up. That's what I want this podcast to be too. We're just talking. We can look up things along the way. I don't want this thing to be too long. Maybe like a half hour. It doesn't even look at this. It's insane because on the Wikipedia page, it's Wikipedia for the COVID pandemic. It didn't start until March because that's when they made it a pandemic. But it's funny how this page won't even show the cases before March, because it really probably was. I mean, in America, I don't know. There probably wasn't much, but in China, supposedly, there's been cases since December. But is this for the U.S.? No, this is for the world, isn't it? Let's see. Different countries in March confirming their first cases, first deaths. The United States reported its second confirmed death on March 1st. The first cases in Rhode Island, Florida, and New York were confirmed. The authorities confirmed 21 more cases, bringing the number to 89 on March 1st. 89 cases in America. That's it, in March 1st. And we're up to like 1 million about now in a couple months, and it still isn't. I mean, it's not that bad. But it is an increase, but it's not a huge increase. And like I said, what the media, like I said, did was so disgusting, because they acted like, for sure, millions of people are going to die. And it caused us this panic to where I saw people like literally being like, I need to quarantine myself. I'm not going to work. This is, my work needs to compensate for me because this is a health issue if I'm to go to work. Just so much insanity, man. Just so much fear. And it was scary for me to see how easy it was in a way. And I try to see both sides, and still to this day, even though now things are settling down a little bit and we're seeing like, yeah, it wasn't that bad. Maybe it could have been. Maybe we did all the right things to make sure the deaths didn't climb into the millions. But it really worried me to see how people were ready to just lock themselves in their houses. When when there was so much different information going on, nothing was even 100% like 100% for sure. Like, how could you have been for sure about anything about this? Because there was so much information. People saying it's like the flu, people saying it's worse than the flu, people saying it could be worse than the flu. People saying, do this, do that, wear gloves, don't wear gloves. I remember my job first started saying we had to wear gloves. I think that was late March. In March. And I remember just being like, dude, like, how's this supposed to help anybody? I was already washing my hands. I already washed my hands. I'm a pretty cleanly person, I feel like. I was just like, dude, I don't think I'm supposed to wear gloves all the time. It's at work. I mean, I'm touching dirty stuff, but my gloves are still getting dirty, and I'm touching other stuff with my gloves, It just didn't make sense to me, personally. But a lot of people want to know what the experts are saying, What do the experts say? What do they want us to do? We got to listen to the experts. After all, we're all too dumb and stupid to think for ourselves. And there was just so much information saying, like, some people said you had to wear gloves, some people say you don't wear gloves, some people say you wear masks, some people say you don't wear masks, and still that misinformation is still going on to this day. And it's just, so that's why I didn't, you really saw the people that were just like, okay, obviously these people don't care about looking any more into it. These people are already set in their minds, they're already scared, they're already like, I'm not, I heard so much from people like, oh, I'm just not risking it, I'm just taking precautions, why risk it? Listen, again, this thing could have been bad. This thing could have been really bad. But understand the precedence that sets when you, as a citizen of a country who has these freedoms that were given to you by people hundreds of years ago that fought in bloody wars for it, and even wrote down on these pieces of paper all the rules and stuff and such that say that you will always maintain this freedom, but you might have to fight for it. You take certain risks so things aren't fluffed up for you and your children and your children's children in the future. Now, I'm not saying, I hope we never have to do something like that. We've all lived so comfy cozy in this country. Not all of us. I don't want to say that. A lot of people have it bad in this country, obviously. But I'm just saying, as compared to a lot of other countries who are constantly fighting and dying for their freedom and fighting tyrannical governments, we've been comfy cozy on just kind of just sitting on our little cloud the government has kind of given us in a way. And we feel free and we're comfortable and this and that, even though our freedoms have kind of been changing and being taken away slowly over time. Another conversation for another day. People don't think about what happens when soldiers come up to my doorstep and say, come with us, you're coming to this camp, give us your children, give us your guns, give us this, you can't leave past this time, what business do you own, you no longer own this business. Certain things like that. Like I said, the government does kind of certain things like that already, but people don't understand that one day that might happen, and somebody or some buddies will want to take all of our freedom away. And the only way you can retain it is if you fight and die for it. Now, you can let other people do that for you, but there might come a time where we're all in it. And if you want to be a part of that freedom, you're going to have to fight and die for it too, or risk it. You're going to have to risk your life to ensure that, like I said, your children and your children's children and your neighbor and your neighbor's children and everybody in this country can continue to sit comfy and cozy, because it could all go away one day, and it probably wouldn't happen all at once. It would happen over time. But this pandemic was a great example on demonstrating on what our government can do in certain situations. We've seen the president, after declaring a national emergency, which he did back in September 2018 as well, to deal with the migrant caravans that were coming up to the border. When you, as a president, and this is something I still have to do me some learning myself, but when a president declares a national emergency, he gets certain powers. His powers kind of change. He or she is able to do a little bit more in certain situations. If it's for national security and if it's supposed to protect the American people, the president in a national emergency is able to do quite a lot, and not only by themselves or with executive power, but with the military as well, because they are the commander-in-chief. They can use the military for almost anything during a national emergency, right? That's how the president used the military to build the wall, or military funding for the wall, because it was under national emergency, and he's able to use, and his reason was to protect the country. and protect the American people. So he was able to use military funding to help build the wall. Um, Now, obviously, this can be a scary thought because, again, a lot of people don't know even what powers their government has or their president has. We're told so much, and again, a lot of this is misinformation, really, that the president abuses this power and abuses that power. Well, no, no. I mean, if abuse, that's up for debate. But the power itself has been vested. These are the powers the president has had since like day one. You know, what's the difference between using your power as a president and abusing your power as a president? It's again maybe another topic for another time. Um, was I going to look something else up? I don't think so. Powers for a president on a national emergency. We don't need to go into that right now. Um, but no, it demonstrated what our government is able to do. Can they issue stay-at-home orders? Can they tell us we can't leave our houses? Can they tell us our businesses can't be open? Isn't that wrong? Isn't that immoral? Sorry, it's a little Neil Breen. Um, and a lot of people, I don't know about a lot of people. People should be looking at that and being like, well, wait a minute, you can do this, you can do that. But instead, a lot of people are just going through with it and accepting it. Like, oh, okay. And not only that, but I see people defending the government's powers. Being like, oh, yes, they should tell everybody to stay home. They should be shutting these businesses down. Nobody should be out right now. This is a pandemic, people. We need to be quarantined. And it's, that fear that people have where they're just willing to let things slide and roll over and not even ask any questions along the way. And they just, like I said, just lay down in the fetal position and let their government roll them over. And because people act like they need other people of titles and experts and such to tell them what to do, because that is how comfy cozy we have gotten. Reading the news and watching the news every day. We rely on all these people, scientists, doctors, journalists, congressmen and governors and all these people, policemen, firefighters. We rely on all these people to do certain things, their jobs or whatever, so we can, sit on our comfy butts and, or, go to work and not have to do any more than that, why should we have to do research into a virus, and see just really, how it is and history of it and if it's really this bad, People should be telling us the truth about that, right? Why should I have to go back and check the Constitution and see what powers the president has and such, Because the president shouldn't ever misuse their powers, right? So this is what I've been seeing, and this is what has been really, what I've been afraid of. I'm afraid of people just rolling over and letting things just happen. I'm afraid of people just bending to the will of people who they feel have higher power than them. Like I said, there's a split in people, and I've had really good conversations with people who are like, hell no, I will not stay inside. I will not wear a mask. I will not do these things, and I will die defending my right for that stuff. And those are the people I respect. A lot of those people just don't trust the government and anything that they tell them. They don't trust the president, la. I have different opinions about that as well. I think there are some trustworthy people, but a lot of untrustworthy people. It's hard to tell who to trust and who not to trust. But that side I respect a lot more. Because, like I said, that's somebody who's thinking about the possibilities, realistic possibilities that have happened to other countries before in history. Our government might be trying to, create martial law and do some crazy stuff after that. They might turn America into a socialistic, communistic country using this pandemic as an excuse. I have a lot of respect for people who are thinking like that, because that is a possibility. And I hope that is never the case. And it's looking like I said, like things are easing up only for specific reasons, though. If certain people had their way right now, we would still be shut down. We would be shut down even more than ever before, for longer, probably until there's a vaccine or something, you know? And all this fear, I also see just so much hypocrisy by the people who are afraid. They're so afraid and they want the government to do all these things to protect them and, and such. But they also want to, do things for themselves to protect themselves. But also at the same time, they think they're, what am I trying to say here? Just so many people that would just rather give in to the fear for caution, just to be safe. And that scares me because if we didn't have certain people right now in our government who were fighting to, open this country back up, and I know a lot of people don't agree with that, understand that the consequences of not opening up would have been so dire. So dire. Forget about that job that hopefully you're going to go back to. Forget about that business hopefully you're going to go back to. That could have all been shut down and gone, bankrupt. Our economy could have really been in the toilet. We were like this close from being in a recession. And right when we almost hit the bottom, thank goodness stocks and everything started going back up. It's this is what I was getting at. The people who complain and, the people who are afraid of the virus the most complain about some of the things that are happening to this country. Like, our economy's sinking. That's, why is our economy sinking? Our economy must really suck. This is going to put us into so much more debt. Where's all this money coming from? These stimulus packages. They're all worried about those things, but yet they're the reason why. Because they're giving into all this fear, because they're making themselves stay home, they're making themselves not go to work, and they're making themselves not run their business, and they're making themselves, they're the reason why the economy is tanking. When you say things like, everything should be shut down for longer, you're accepting then things are going to get worse. The economy's going to get worse then. All these things are going to get worse. We're going to get into more debt. We're going to have to do more stimulus packages and get into even more debt. You're the reason why. Your fear is the reason why. All this stuff is so fluffed up. We haven't lived through this before. We didn't know how the government was even supposed to react during a pandemic. We have the CDC and World Health Organization telling us that, you need to test everybody. You need to test like 5 million people a week or something like that, every hospital needs to have 100,000 ventilators, 50,000 ventilators. All these things that they were, that they keep saying that people needed, and I don't know, I just keep just lose my train of thought. Building on that fear, but then oh my gosh, it's just ridiculous, man. It's crazy, like I said, what I've seen fear do to people. Now, I myself am not afraid of this, but I do know a lot about fear. This is kind of like this is my own little personal experience, and just again on the topic of fear. I know it had a lot to do with coronavirus and stuff, just because that's what, like I said, is very relevant right now. And like I said, even right now, we have this huge split of people who never believed it and are just ready for everything to open back up, to people who believed it at first, but now they think things are better, so they should open things back up. And then you got people who are like, no, things are worse, we need to keep shut down, and everyone needs to wear masks. I've seen more people wear masks in the last, few weeks than I did in the very beginning, when this thing was supposedly, well, not the very beginning, but when this thing peaked. I didn't even see people wearing that many masks. But now that things are settling down, I see more masks than anything than ever. And again, I'm not saying, those are wrong or whatever, but just understand, again, look what fear is making you do. Are you wearing a mask because you truly believe it helps and you've done all the research to show that it helps? Or are you wearing a mask because everyone else is? Are you wearing a mask because you've read one thing or heard one person say it works? Look into everything. Look into all sides of things. You really got to take your time. If you really care about your freedom, and you really care about things getting better in this country, you have to start taking the time to research and start reading about all these things and start questioning things. If you haven't now, then you're probably a lost cause. I'm sorry. Some people will always be lost. Some people will always be sheep. Some people will always need someone to herd them into their pens. I guess that's just how it's always been and always will be. But I just hope that that side is becoming a real minority. And I think it is. I see a lot of people questioning things, and a lot of people waking up to a lot of things. And like I said, I've had way more good conversations about this virus than I have bad ones. Just hearing how open people are to the different conspiracies and different ideas of what's going on. So, fear, man. There's been so much fear injected into us over this thing, and it's caused a lot of hysteria. And I think a lot of unnecessary hysteria. If anything, at least I could hopefully at least say that things are getting better now, and maybe we just did all the right things, and so now it's time to start getting back to normal. But by no means are things getting worse, and by no means should we let things get worse, or let ourselves think things are getting worse, and start acting like they're getting worse. Don't go back into your holes, people. Don't go back into your holes, man. Okay, so I just wanted to also just talk about, oh man, a little bit. I already went over a half hour. Just how fear has affected me and my experiences with it. Now, I was never afraid of this virus. I have my reasons. I saw something like this coming in a way. And the fact that it came from China, I was very suspicious about from the beginning. And I still, like I said, I'm still undecided if it was as bad as everyone says it was. Maybe it could have got really bad. I'm open to that. I didn't try to criticize too many people for it. I did get frustrated with some people, including my fiance, about it, because she was really afraid of it. But then I had to finally just realize, like, okay, people are afraid, man. I don't think they should be, but you can't help how people feel. They're afraid, and when people are afraid, they're not in their right minds. So I had to try to think about that too, while also just doing my own research. I've tried to stay away from this topic for a very good reason. I don't talk about my ideas on this virus and such, and I'm not going to right now. Maybe another topic for another time. Sorry, text message. Man, I'm really just can't keep track of my thoughts. I've made sure not to talk about this thing because, like I said, there was so much misinformation. There was so many different things. I was just trying to really read into everything and look into everything before I came to my own conclusions. I feel like I now have an idea of what this all really was. Not going to talk about it right now. But regardless, I understand why people were afraid. But if you really just looked into it, I think it would have eased a lot of people's minds a little bit more. But hey, that is what that is. Like I said, I was never afraid. I just couldn't. Like I said, I just wanted to learn everything I could about it. That's all. The only thing I was afraid of, like I said, was what people were letting the government tell them to do. I was ready. It's hard to say because until you're in that situation, but from early on, when I started hearing people talking about, oh, the country's going to shut down, I was like, I will die, bro. I will die first. If you tell me I can't leave my house past a certain time, I'm going to do it. And then if an authoritarian or an authority figure or somebody stopped me, I would take the consequences of fighting for that. Even if you shot me right then and there, man, I was willing to die for that because I thought I understood what was kind of happening in that aspect. I don't care if there's a pandemic. I don't care if there's a virus wiping everyone out. Okay, I mean, I do care. If it was a lot worse, I don't know. I might have been more willing to, do certain things, but I was like, no, this is a test, bro. We have to put our foots down here. We have to work together on this, but we cannot let our government bully us into telling us what we can and can't do. That is just a slippery slope, and that is what I have decided I will die for. Over these last couple of years, man, I've realized how important that freedom is, and there are people that want to take it away, and I will die for it. Anyways, I'm not So that's what I fear. I fear things like that. And I didn't give in to that kind of fear because, like I said, I was still trying to look into things. I wasn't, and first off, when I see things getting thrown around on Facebook, when I see pictures of Humvees and stuff being put on Facebook and shared everywhere, I already have a feeling that's fake. I'm sorry. I already am suspicious of stuff like that. I'm like, I don't think so, man. I don't think so. Y'all are looking at these pictures right here. I'm looking out my window. Two different scenarios. I just didn't see it happening. Although the stay-at-home order, I remember when that happened, that did catch me off guard, and that had me a little bit worried. I was like, okay, how far is this thing gonna go? And then that's when I bided my time and did my research, and here we are. Things are getting better. But I live in fear in other ways, which is funny. I did not fear this virus, but I live in fear. There's a lot of things I want to do in life, and some of those things require some risks. Obviously, a lot of things in life, as I've talked about before, require risking. It's gotta be so annoying when I gulp with my big Adam's apple. Um, um, I don't know how many people know this. I want to be, a legit filmmaker. Something I've been very interested in. I've always loved movies, and I've been trying to kind of like make movies in a way, write scripts and everything for like the last 6 years, almost 7 years now. And I have a lot of fear and insecurities. Excuse me, about my ideas and about the things I want to make and the movies and stuff I want to make. And I have a real hard time pursuing those things and taking big risks with those things. I drive myself crazy, man, every day just being like, man, I wish I would have done that. I wish I would have taken that opportunity. Why didn't I, do this or that? All because I just was worried about the outcome, Um, I live in not only a fear of taking risks for these things, but I live in fear of taking these risks and still not succeeding. Um, I'm very afraid, especially as these years go by. I'm a very fantastical person. I daydream a lot. I think of the future a lot. And when I first was like, I want to be a filmmaker, I was like, by 24, bro, I bet you I could sell a script. By 24, I bet you I could make a feature-length film. By 24 or 25, bro. By 27, 28, by 30 years old, I bet you I've made 2 feature films. I'm 26, I've made 1 short film. When I was 23. And I've been working on a couple of scripts, for about 6 years. And as time goes on, the more it settles in, this fear that it's never going to happen. These things, I will never make these movies. And that is one of my biggest fears. One of my biggest fears is being 45 and still working on the same script with the same dream. Working at a gas station. you know? And so, every day I have to make decisions on, do I still work on these things? Do I still work on this? I still work on this script? It gets harder and harder to encourage myself to continue with these things, and also to have the confidence because I get so in this place in my head, like sometimes I'll just be writing. Like sometimes I'll be writing and I'll be like, dude, I love this. I don't even care what other people would think. This is my story. I love this story, bro. I love these characters. I love this. And there are other times when I'll be writing the same story and I'll be like, this is awful. This is so terrible. One of my biggest fears is being like a Neil Breen or a Tommy Wiseau, making things and putting them out in the world and thinking they're good while everyone else really thinks they're laughable and horrible. That's a huge fear of mine. And that gives me a lot of, that makes me very not confident, when I think those things. and stops me in my tracks, and I'll toss aside my notebook and be like, there's no point. There's no point if I'm not confident in this work that it's good, at least enough for me to continue, or confident enough to try to pursue actually making it into a movie or making something, taking those risks and, opportunities, talking to people, putting it out there, submitting it to somebody, whatever. There's only so many options, but there are options, when you're trying to make movies and stuff. But yeah, I gotta have the confidence, man. I lack so much of it, and like I said, I'm just so insecure about a lot of my stories and stuff, and I'm just like, I don't know, man. I don't know if I want to show people these things, but at the same time, it's like I do, and that's at the same time, it's like, okay, well, what if I do, and then they're hated, or what if there's just so, that's where my mind is every day, man. Every day for like the last 6 years, more so the last couple of years. I'm just so afraid that I'm wasting my time. I'm so afraid that this will never develop into anything, that I will never be able to create the stories I want to create, and live the dreams that I want to live, And so sometimes I let fear stop me in my tracks from pursuing those things. I let fear sometimes stop me from going, hey, I'm going to message this person and be like, let's make a movie this day. I let fear stop me from doing those things a lot. And so this whole thing with fear, like I said, not only on an individual level, how it affects us from pursuing certain things and taking risks, and we lose more opportunities, and we lose, just more in general. We lose, like I said, sometimes you could lose freedom if you're not taking risks, if you're too scared. You can, miss out on opportunities for your dream job. I don't know. Like I said, as an individual, you can miss out on so much, but as a society, man, when we all give into fear, there are people, bro, that they know that shit. They know how the human psyche works. They know, if they're so scared, they're not gonna look into any of this shit. We could tell them anything we want, and they'll listen. We have these people so scared. We have these booty holes so clenched. We could tell them to march into camps. We could tell them to give up your children, and they'll do it. There are people out there like that, bro. And that's where fear's on a much more serious level. Like I said, as an individual, I'm living my life. I got a good life. I got a beautiful child and a beautiful fiance, and I've got a job where I'm making enough money to get by. I'm very blessed, and I got a great family, and so my individual fears they're such my personal problem. They really only affect me. But when it's all of us collectively giving into fear, we're losing everything for us, and like I said, for our children, or at least we're risking losing those things. Thomas Paine, man, revolutionary, great quote. I will die today for my child's freedom tomorrow. I'm willing to do that, man. This thing is bigger than any movie or any dream or anything that we can think of. Any of the dreams we're pursuing right now is tiny peas compared to standing up as united people to retain our freedoms. Otherwise, we can't even chase our dreams. There is no pursuit of happiness if we have no Bill of Rights and Constitution. There isn't. There just isn't. And so as I wrap this up, 50 minutes, this is a good first run. I'll do some editing. Try to make it a little better. I like this. I like that my daughter has actually given me the time to do this. Let's see how often that happens. But as I wrap this up, that's what I would just like everyone to really just kind of just think about when you're afraid. What are you not thinking about? When you're afraid and you're listening to someone who's scaring you, who aren't you listening to that could maybe encourage you? Folks, it's normal to be afraid, but don't ever let fear control you and make decisions for you. I think that's it for today. Was that a good one? Was that a good one? This has been Deep Thoughts. And we are crazy.
Hello.
Hello. And we're not going to give in to fear.
Hello.
Have your freedoms. You're gonna have your freedoms forever. And you gotta make sure you do the same for your children. Alright, this has been Deep Thoughts, everybody. See you later. I'll work on an outro.